Answered a question. He has now issued a statement supporting FEMA. He says, I'm quoting, "As President, I will ensure FEMA has the funding it needs to fulfil its mission." So once again, here's Mitt Romney. Finger in the air, wind blowing, oh, it's a heavy storm, I support FEMA.
Yeah. Well, it only took him 48 hours.
This is embarrassing.
It only took him 48 hours to come up with a statement. You would hope that President Romney could respond to a hurricane quicker than he can come up with a statement about his position on FEMA. But in any case, it's very hard to square what he's saying about FEMA funding now with the very morality-laden approach that he took in the Republican debates. Remember that what he's describing in this statement is actually the status quo. It's not big change, but it is a big change from what he said before, which is, you know, FEMA funding is, if it comes from debt, which every extra dollar does,
is a moral problem for this nation.
It's a moral problem.
It's not just an issue of money.
Correct. It's a moral problem, more than the moral problem of dealing with people in need in a disaster zone. Now that has been jettisoned because he wants to appear moderate. It's very hard to know who the real Mitt Romney is, but at least he could speed up his response time in a disaster.
And
yes,
Martin, by the way, it does not square with what we know of the Romney-Ryan budget plan, because if indeed you cut income tax rates by 20% and you boost defense spending, you've got to essentially cut discretionary spending if you're not going to add to the deficit by a draconian levels. I mean, you got to cut it by like 40%, including FEMA. So it's impossible to square what we know of his budget plan, since he won't lay them out in detail, and this new statement that, oh well, of course I'm going to fully fund FEMA. Well, gee, what's he going to say today? Of course he loves FEMA now,
yeah,
but he didn't love it when they were coming up with the budget plan.
And to Eugene's point, Richard, if Mitt Romney was thinking he might get some solace from Paul Ryan, of course there's the Ryan budget, which also slashes any amount. What is it? I think 23 million from the budget for FEMA. I mean, again, their actual plans would eviscerate provision for the kind of emergency that this nation is facing today.
Right, and very shortly we're going to be discussing whether or not to raise the debt ceiling again. And debt ceilings get pushed out by these kinds of disasters. You know, the New York subway has to be cleared out. The New York subway is not going to pay for that on its own. They're going to need federal support across this area. That's going to run right up against this debt ceiling. Let's see if the Republicans remember that their nominee, maybe their president-elect, says FEMA should be fully federally funded.
And we look forward to hearing if Bain Capital will provide the funding. Richard Wolff and Eugene Robinson. Gentlemen, thank you.